Hi guys, so this video is going to be about how to calculate when the moon is in your sign for the sidereal calendar, and what is the difference between the tropical and the sidereal calendar, and why does that matter for the racing of the sacred secretion. So when we first start thinking about doing the sacred secretion, raising the Christ oil practice, for me personally, I arrived into the tropical calendar first, and then I transitioned into the sidereal calendar when I figured out what was really happening and why that was important. And along the way, I've gone through like 2 years of experimenting and learning about calendars and how it all works to come up with what I'm really calling a more precise system, which is basically calendars that I've created, charts I've created, in order to sort of systemize this process. Because, if we transition from the tropical into the sidereal, then we actually have to think, like, is my tropical star sign going to fit into a sidereal calendar? Maybe not, because some star signs will change from a tropical to a sidereal if you use a sidereal natal planner. And I've noticed that if you're born in the middle of the month, when the sun comes into the zodiac, you probably won't change. But if you're on either end, like the beginning week or the last week of the month, then your tropical sign may shift with a sidereal natal chart. So there's all this stuff to consider. So when I see online people like saying, what is the lunar calendar for the sacred secretion for this year? This prompted me to make this video to show that there's a little bit more to it. So if you think that you can just go to someone's website and download a calendar for the year, you're really going to miss out on quite a lot of the technical stuff that goes into it, which is really what I'm teaching. Is like, if you learn how to use the system as a tool set, then you'll be able to calculate it all yourself every year. You won't need someone else's printable chart, because you can actually create your own specific to you and your sidereal or your tropical sign, depending on what you want to use, and your time zone, because no one's even thinking about this, right? Oh, what's the lunar phases for the year? I'm in Bali. Maybe you're in London or America or somewhere. Right now in Bali, it's like, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, but in the other side of the world, everyone is asleep. So when it comes to calculating your sacred secretion specific time, this means that you need to use your time zone. You need to choose your calendar with the right time zone, and that will give you the precise minute to second entry and exit points for when the moon transits your star sign, and also the sun and all of the other planets. So what I like to do, because I was trained in Ayurveda as well, and I'm trained in traditional Chinese medicine, it's very easy for me to sort of shift into different calendars, because I have learned a little bit along the way. This one is really, really useful. It's I know it's backwards, so I'm going to flash it up next to me. This is a Vedic annual planner. It's made by the Science of Light. They're very generous business. They give these printables out as downloadable PDFs on their website. And along with all of the calendar stuff, there's a lot of learning tools in there. There's a lot of really amazing information that you can use for your own education. This is basically showing the procession of the equinoxes. I've got a better chart, a bit more bright, to show you on that. So basically, this is what you would use as your tool number one, and I'm going to show you a 5-tool system, which is in my online course, which takes, to calculate everything in the online course, it just takes about an hour and a half, and it's pretty fun. It's very interactive. I'll show you some of those charts, but this is the first thing you would need to get hold of. But this PDF that they share, they've only got a few time zones, and the closest one I could get to my Bali time zone was Singapore. Singapore and Bali are an hour's difference apart. So for me to get more precise while using this calendar, because I do like to draw things, I note things down in colors and use colorful pencils. It's, my kinesthetic nature, I need to do this. But on top of that, I need to go to their other resource, which is an online digital resource, and I'll flash up a picture of what that looks like. You can literally plug in your exact location and it's going to give you your whole calendar like that for your time zone. So that means you've got to use these two things together if you want to do stuff on paper, because it's really helpful to get into that kinesthetic learning mode, so you can engage the left and right hemispheres of your brain, so you can develop critical thinking and things like that. So coming back to what is the procession of the equinoxes, this is really the knowledge we need to know that's going to help us determine the importance for choosing the tropical or the sidereal calendar, right? So in the diagram, I'm going to look at mine so I know what I'm talking about while I put up the picture next to me so you can follow along. But basically I've got this diagram called Procession of the Equinoxes, and we've got the tropical side there and we've got the sidereal side there. And so what we need to know is that it's all about the movement of the sun going around the earth in a 360-degree circle that takes 365 days to complete one orbit, right? And inside of that there's going to be peaks and troughs, and they're basically solstices and equinoxes, and these are used to measure and demarcate out the seasons, like winter and summer and autumn and spring. And so in the spring equinox, this has always been recognized that when the particular zodiac of the age aligns with the spring equinox, at whatever degree it's in, that will mark the beginning of the year for the spring equinox in the age of that particular zodiac. So currently, we're in the age of Pisces in the sidereal calendar. But if you're using the tropical calendar, it's saying that we're still in the age of Aries. So this is the discrepancy between the two systems. So the tropical system, it was basically when Pope Gregory, who made the Gregorian calendar, he wanted to realign the movements of the seasons with the movements of the constellations in the zodiac and the solstices and the equinoxes. And they basically locked in for their time Aries, because that was the particular age that that constellation matched up with that equinox, which made everything perfect for that time. But no one's changed it since. So if you're still using the tropical calendar now, you're basically being held back in time, and it is not actually the true depiction of what's happening in the stars above. The sidereal calendar is, because it is tracking the movement of these constellations. So the 12 main constellations, obviously, is called the zodiac animals. And this 360 circle is then split into 12 divisions for the 12 zodiac animals. And then each one of those divisions is called a decan, and that is made up of 30 degrees. And then one of those decans, 12 of them, will take that zodiac however many years to move through it. And it moves through at a rate of 72 years per 1 degree. So 72 times 30 degrees equals 2,160 years that constellation, zodiac animal, will be in that position. And if that lines up with the equinox, that's what the age is measured from. So that's what we need to know. So then it just becomes up to you. Like, do you want to measure your raising of the sacred secretion on a calendar that's actually not relevant to the current day and age? Or do you want to get in proper synchronization with what is happening in the external cosmos? Because if we're looking into it from the perspective that we're using the microcosmic orbit, which is a Qigong practice, to think about it, microcosmic orbit. It's a microcosm within yourself that if you do this practice while the moon is in your sign, so incorporating the sacred secretion into this microcosmic orbit, you're harmonizing your within world, your microcosm, with what's actually happening in the macrocosm. And if you do it with what's actually happening in the macrocosm, you're going to have a far smoother energetic ride than if you're using the tropical, which is puts everything off by about 2.1 days in terms of when the moon comes into your zodiac sign. Then at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter so much. Well, it does if you want to be super precise, and I like precision. If, for example, you started on the tropical, the moon came into your zodiac at blah, blah, blah time on the tropical, then you will notice 2 days later, it moves into the next star sign. And this in the sidereal calendar may turn out to be your true star sign. So then there's a 2.1 day discrepancy between the tropical star sign and the sidereal star sign. So that means really if you start using the tropical, you're still going to be blending yourself into the sidereal if your star sign does change. So as I said, these calendars, there's a lot to kind of start thinking about in terms of, while there's a lot of information to start collating into different charts. So obviously it's all still backwards, and I'm going to flash up this image to the side. So this is basically the first calendar utilizing the information we find in this Vedic sidereal calendar planner. We pull that data out of here and we put it into here. And so what you'll see is that I have begun this calendar not at January, beginning on March, because that's when the equinox begins, the spring equinox begins the year, if we're following nature and agricultural cycles, which is the whole point of raising the Christ oil in the sacred secretion, is to start harmonizing and blending ourselves in with these cosmic rhythms. So we have less stress on our body, and then this will enable us to live longer and all sorts of good things like that. I'll make more videos on all of the, what I've discovered with the sacred secretion and how it's helped me in all different sorts of ways and observations. So why did I change this calendar? Obviously, I've explained the equinox being the start for the year. But when you look into the calendar, if you start learning the language of etymology, which just means like, what does that word really mean at its root core? Where did that word come from? And you look at words like September, October, November, December, what will you find? Okay, in the Gregorian calendar, we've got January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. 12 months, beginning on January, ending on December. But dec means 10. But why is it the 12th month? Nov means 9. Why is it the 11th month? Oct means 8. Why is it the 10th month? Sept means 7. Why is it the 9th month? It's a bit wrong. So it's all very confusing, and it's fascinating to start like actually looking and being like, oh, have all of these. I mean, in one way, I think it might be just arbitrary plus laziness, that someone just forgot to change the calendar for the next age, things like that, or the knowledge was maybe lost, or someone is intentionally trying to confuse everyone. I think it's a bit of a mix-up. So I don't really like to say why not, but there's a way that we can get through all of those problems, which is just make a blooming new calendar. So that's calendar 1. That I've got in my course to show you how to take yourself through it. But basically, this red line going horizontally, that's tracking the movement of the sun. When the sun comes into the month, it always comes mid-month, if we're talking numbers, like numbers down the side, first of the month to the last of the month. You can see it's always happening around the 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th of the month. And you can see that lovely sine wave of the sun moving around the earth. The next bit, because I'm a Libra and the sidereal calendar, so these are all of the times of the year that Libra is going to, the moon is going to enter Libra. So I got the information from here, I plugged it into here. It's not with the times or anything yet, save that for the next calendar. And so you can see, tracking every month, the moon entering Libra. And what's happening here? There's one Libra at the bottom and there's one Libra at the top. And this is an anomaly that we have to use these charts to discover, which is that within 12 solar months, when the moon enters the month or the zodiac, that will happen 12 times, those 12 divisions, but the moon's on a different program. The moon, to go around the Earth, if we're using a geocentric model, is going to take 13 cycles in 1 year. So that means that one of these months, the moon's going to appear in your zodiac 2 times. And it may appear like, in my case, it's at the very beginning and the very end. So it's going to be for every different star sign. It's going to be for a different month. And every year is also going to be different. So that's why this chart is laminated. So I can use this chart for 1 year, and then I can just wipe it all off and I can reuse it for the rest of my life. So that's the first chart, just to see the pattern that it creates, because you can see these movements of the sun in red and then the moon in the blue. Okay, next calendar. This one, I'll pop it up on the side so you can see it not backwards. This is one I've created, and it's basically showing the year, to plan out the year, showing the movement from the equinox to the solstice, to the equinox to the solstice, to the equinox. And we've got to understand that, I'm trying to get us out of linear straight line calendars into a fluid spiral, because the sine wave movement of all of these planets and everything in nature, it's not doing straight lines. And also, when you look at calendars like this, you're like, oh, the beginning of the month is number 1 and the end of the month is number 30 or 29, and then the beginning of the month is number 1, and by cutting things off, it almost makes your brain start thinking that there's a beginning and an end, where it's nothing to do with that. These are arbitrary names, these months. It's just a name making divisions in something that doesn't actually have a true division. Because from one movement to the next movement on a wave, what's the beginning of the wave and what's the end of the wave? Because one thing builds into the next. So this is why I've made this calendar in this way, to really show this kind of movement. And this is the calendar that we can go back through this planner and pick out the exact times. And if this planner isn't exact enough, then we go on to the digital version to get the exact times for when the moon enters your star sign in the sidereal planner in the time zone that you're in. Okay? 2 charts. Two calendars, 2 charts. Chart number 3, the final one. These are all in my course. This one. Yeah, it's backwards. I'll put it over there for not being backwards. This is basically showing that sine wave moving from equinox to solstice to equinox to solstice to equinox to solstice to equinox to solstice. It's a 2-year planner, right? And so, what I'm really teaching in this course, sorry, I keep itching. I've got mosquitoes. I'm in the jungle. What I'm really teaching in this course is, what I've discovered in Taoist teachings, which is the followers of nature, the Chinese philosophers who observed nature and followed nature. And they actually teach in alchemy that really reflects the sacred secretion, and they teach it in 3 stages. And when I decoded all of that information, I realized that their stages are actually all about the solstices and the equinoxes. And then in the greater time frame of it all, it's all about the 108, which is the ratio distance between the Earth and the Sun and the Earth and the Moon. And that is a 9-year kind of plan that they've got this in alchemy 3 stages inside of, which I'm really finding all of the connections link straight back to the sacred secretion. And the Taoists even have a teaching in there that has the crucifixion, resurrection and ascension. So when you put the 2 together, it's like so much more information in the toolbox, right? So I've made this calendar basically to get you to be able to plug yourself into when is the best time to align my rises and falls energetically within your own electromagnetic system to slot into what nature is doing on the macro. So the Nadan and the alchemists teach us these 3 stages. There's a stage, the first stage takes 100 days, which is 3 months, which is what? 3 months from an equinox to a solstice. The second stage is 10 months, which is the time it takes from an equinox to a solstice to an equinox to a solstice. Then we've got 3 months left over because it's the 13 lunar cycles inside 12 solar months. And so doing this chart, you can actually start plotting in when is that time where the moon enters your star sign 2 times. You plot it in here, and then basically what I'm teaching is the microcosmic orbit is to figure out when to build up your energy over 3 months and 10 months, and then when to discharge your energy, which is really, really important, because if you charge up energy in a circuit too much and you overcharge it without discharging, you could fry your nervous system. And I'm not joking, I'm not being philosophical, I'm being actually literally straight up real. I've had a couple of instances where things like this have happened to me, and I've had to recuperate and recover. So a lot of what I'm teaching in this course is the holistic viewpoint of it all in a very safe and measured way, because the Taoists, they don't only teach us 3 stages, they teach us before you even begin any of this, you have to do the preliminary stage. And that is really coming to do with like self-assessment. How is your physical, mental, emotional, spiritual life? Do you have enough petrol in the tank? Do you have enough water in the engine? Do you have enough oil in the engine to be able to do this without dehydrating yourself or, you know, all sorts of things that can go wrong. So I just want to say that because that's why my course is how it is. I could take these calendars out and make a mini module, but I'm not going to do that because I want people to understand that this is a practice that it's one of the strongest energy practices that you could do. And, you know, when I look at the decoding stuff, we've got, you know, in the microcosmic orbit, Qigong practice, we're running energy up the do and down the ren. This is actually the spine, the cerebral spinal fluid going up and down the spine and through and out of the brain. And those meridians are really talking about the most inner core aspect of our being. And when those 2 meridians are joined together in the mouth and at the tailbone, the joining and uniting of the masculine and the feminine is called the river chariot. And this river chariot is the cerebral spinal fluid. Then when we look into Kabbalism, we find exactly the same reference, which is the chariot or the throne. The throne of God is the brainstem. And they're teaching, you know, this is all to do with the Merkava, which is the spirit-like body. And they say that it is a forbidden teaching. And I was like, oh my God, I'm teaching forbidden teaching. Should I be teaching this? And I did consider what I was doing quite seriously. But then I thought to myself, well, there's a lot of people online that are teaching this without knowing that bit. They don't know that you can blow your nervous system. Because I come from this holistic practitioner background, right? I have a Bachelor of Health Science in Chinese Medicine and Acupuncture and a diploma in Qigong and Tai Chi. I've also studied Ayurveda and many other things, including biofeedback technology and the multi-wave oscillator and all sorts of gadgetry like that. So what I want people to know is that, you know, this is a chart from my book, my first book called Alchemical Laboratory, and you can see that it looks a little bit similar to this, right? Solstice, equinox, energy, voltage, peak, and discharge. So this is really what we're doing. And if we can slot ourselves in to that rhythm and learn when our energy is going to peak and when it needs to be discharged, then we're going to be protecting our nervous system, and we are going to be doing this practice safely. And, you know, it is a practice over time. every month we're building energy in the circuitry system, and then we're cultivating it, and then the next month we're building it again, and then we're cultivating it, and it's a gradual process. So when people say, has anyone raised the Christ oil successfully? Well, that you've got to get out of that kind of linear way of thinking. You know, I've had moments where I've had very spontaneous things happen in the right condition, in the right atmosphere. For example, when I was in my second Vipassana, great atmosphere, internal work, silence, taken care of, full-time meditation, 24/7 kind of thing. That's when I had a Kundalini raising. There was literally a serpent that happened through my body, and it went as a cobra out my forehead. And that's when I remembered a bunch of past lives, and it's a very detailed story. There's lots of exciting stuff that happened and bells and whistles, but the interesting thing was I did not know at the time that it was Christmas time, interestingly, and I didn't even know, but the moon was in my star sign. So I was having a sacred secretion in a Vipassana at Christmas, over the solstice, and that's when I had this Kundalini experience and past life memories and everything. So, you know, that was one happening in 2016. 2022, I had another spontaneous happening, different setup, different country, but the moon was in my sign and I did not know because I hadn't started investigating this yet. And that actually began 2 years ago, this whole entire investigation, which has turned into a 4-book series and a course and everything like that. I'm a technical person. I love the technical stuff. So that's kind of what it's turned into on one level, is really trying to reverse engineer the process and get the most perfect protocol. So anyway, I'll leave it there because I always talk a lot. It's my vata. So I hope that's cleared up a bit of the mysteries with the calendars and like what you need to do in terms of participation. I really encourage you to do that, because if you look on someone else's website, as I've said, and you screen grab a calendar for 2024, what's their time zone? Is it your time zone? It's going to be wrong, basically. So using the system, it will enable you to design your own calendar every year. Just laminate it and then rub it off. So anyway, I hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye for now.